Solutions to the climate crisis will take many forms, one of which is algae. That's according to chef Callum Munro. He comes down to the coast every other day to collect seaweed here on the Scottish Isle of Skye.
Do you do this every week then?
I do it maybe 2 or 3 times a week actually.
Wow.
We come out, yeah. See this one here, which is, I would say up there with the best, is sea spaghetti. As you can tell why it's called sea spaghetti, because it just looks exactly like this. Again, it's quite a subtle flavour, but you can use it just as you would spaghetti.
Together with climate activist Shona Cameron, the two are trying to bring seaweed back into the kitchen. As a renewable alternative to fish and meat, seaweed is the vegetable of the sea and is available all year round. They're sharing these ideas with schools, armed with recipes for the children to learn.
How do we eat as humans change the climate? Seaweeds and bivalves are a huge part of culture here for centuries, millennia. People have eaten these species, but we've kind of lost touch with it a little bit. And how can we sort of reconnect people with that tradition?
Shona Cameron envisions the coast as a garden.
Somewhere that we can cultivate and use in a responsible way, and maybe how small-scale community enterprises could start to use it as a way to support their local economy.
Ian Matheson, too, wants to capitalize on the Isle of Skye's seaweed by growing it. He's a trained fisherman, but for almost 2 years he's been farming seaweed as a side gig. It's more sustainable, he says. But first, he must find out which types grow best in these waters.
To begin with, we'll be using this for biostimulants, but we need to send off for testing first, see what kind of nutrients and minerals it has, and then once we've discovered that, we'll know what we want to do with it after that.
Ian Matheson and other entrepreneurs founded the farm on an area spanning 40 hectares.
We'll be putting in half the total farm area, and that should produce around 200 tonnes of kelp in the first year. And then the following year we'll put in the other half of the grid, so we'll be up to 400 tonnes.
Alongside tourism, salmon farming is one of the Isle of Skye's most important industries. It provides jobs, but aquaculture also causes environmental damage. In recent years, more and more kelp farmers have settled around the island. Some farms are already producing. The seaweed off Skye can grow to over 2 meters long, and that's completely fertilizer-free. Until now, processing has been the bottleneck, a gap in the market that Alison Baker is intent on filling. Her startup, Eco Cascade, is supported by the Scottish Government. They've just invested in a new shredding plant.
This seaweed is going to go into a research project for animal feed, but it's also, this particular variety of kelp is very good for biostimulants as a soil improver.
Alison Baker and her colleagues alike are banking on the small industry's potential to grow quickly. But so far, large-scale commercial uptake has been slower than expected.
We want to be able to process a lot of seaweed that can go onto a commercial market because that will promote the growth of the industry, because farmers will be able to grow to order, they'll be able to increase the size of their farms and grow more seaweed.
Seaweed farming is still far from replacing the salmon industry here, but residents on Skye seem open to the idea. Unlike in southern Britain, where fishers have protested the new industry, the residents of Skye are actively involved in the planning process. People just have to get used to it, rediscover it, says chef Callum Munro.
Think about it like any other vegetable, any other thing, but it just grows in the sea. But yeah, there's a definite maybe shift in mentality that might need to happen, but hopefully with more people trying the seaweed salads and things like that, it will become more normal.
The sea is truly a treasure, And seaweed farming might just go some way towards saving it.